Without income, you don't have anything. My name is Carmen.
And I'm Darius. And when we say you don't have anything, we mean you don't have anything to invest. So when we think about the priorities that we have for our money, a lot of times what people do is they prioritize the investing. But what happens if that income that you're using to invest goes away?
That's a really good thing that we're going to talk about today, because we want to make sure that we put the cart, we don't put the cart before the horse, and we have a strategic approach for how we make this whole thing work. So we know many people that tell us all the time, like, Carmen and Darius, I'm so focused on investing. And we say, that's amazing. Right. But let's also make sure that we go back and understand that our income is what fuels our ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Our income isn't just about investing. It's about protection. It's about building a solid foundation. And today we want to make sure that we walk you through that ecosystem so that you can ensure that it makes sense for what you're doing.
Yeah, I would say the key word with the ecosystem is the fact that it's a system. And it's not one thing that's going to solve all your problems or going to take care of everything. We have to do things in increments. And I think the where we start with is our values. When we have conversations with clients, we have quickly come to the understanding that some people value things over people.
Or themselves.
Or themselves. They value things over themselves. And a good example of that is we might have insurance on our cell phone. Even though we buy a new cell phone every 2 years, we got insurance on our cell phone. We got insurance on our car because we have to get insurance on our car. We got insurance on our home because we have to get insurance on our home. We got health insurance. We got all these different insurances. And a lot of time we have insurance on technology, because what happens if something happens to my computer? I want to be able to replace it. Well, if something happens to you, there's no replacing you, but yet we still don't have insurance on ourselves. Mm-mm. But who's out there making all the money is us.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just going back to setting the foundation, setting the intention, right? Mm-hmm. Today, let's claim our intention. And just like soil is needed to grow plants, our income is a foundation that supports our savings. It's what supports the investment. It's what supports wealth building and our livelihood. So let's ensure that we first and foremost understand what the number one asset is. Look at my shirt. I just happened to wear this shirt today. The number one asset is ourselves. We're the ones who create, right? We were created to create. So if we create, that means that our value is going to be determined by what we're creating. And how do we ensure that that creation, or AKA our income, is protected, mm-hmm. right? Because if you get sick, if you get injured, if you pass away, that income stops. That income goes away. Your bills don't stop. Right? Those are IOUs indefinitely. Mm. Electricity bill always has to be paid. Your water bill always has to be paid. And so we have to make sure that you are protecting your ability to support your lifestyle and for those who come after you.
Right. Now let's dive a little deeper into the ecosystem. If we think of the ecosystem, and Carmen mentioned soil, what does that soil represent for you as it relates to our finances? When someone plants a seed, that seed is going to be put into soil. That soil is your mindset. Like, is it
fertile ground?
Is it fertile ground? Is it in an environment where that seed can germinate into something that's actionable, something that can actually benefit you? Or will it be put into soil that it just stays stagnant and eventually that seed dies, or it doesn't create any fruit? Mm-hmm. So our mindset is important as it acts as soil. We have to make sure that that soil is getting the nourishment that it needs. So if we're thinking about watering that ecosystem or watering that seed, that means that we have to water it with information, the right amount of information, because too little, nothing will happen. Even if it's too much, then we'll stay stagnant because we continue to just put in information without doing anything about it.
Mm-hmm. And going back to the number one asset being you. Mm-hmm. So we literally just had a class with our Wealth Nation community about understanding your value. Do you know what your value is monetarily? Because if you don't know what your value is, then you have an opportunity to make sure that you do what you need to do to close that gap. When we work in the world of insurance, and we know many people out there are underinsured, meaning that they've insured their cell phones before they've insured their lives. So going back to, again, our bills, we insure our homes, we insure our cars, we insure our health. How much insurance do you have on your life? How many years will your income continue after you pass away? right? Because when we go back to our investments, why protecting your income is more important than investing is because if your income is no longer around because you're no longer around to pay for the investments so that they can cash flow, what have we done?
Right.
It's all been for naught.
And I think too, people may not take into consideration the cost of maintaining those investments.
Totally true.
Because, we like to talk about real estate, but what about maintaining the taxes on that real estate? What if it's a buy and hold and you have a mortgage on it? What if there's a tenant in there? Like, what is going to maintain that investment in the absence of your income? So those are things that we have to take in consideration, even with the fact that we want to accumulate assets over our lifetime. What's the cost of maintaining those assets?
Yeah. And it just going back to the point of I want to make sure that you understand what we're talking about here is this is a stair-step approach. So one, we have our income. Let's ensure our income, making sure that we have maximum value with life insurance. We're protecting that because if we only prioritize our investments, then we're exposed as far as our income is concerned. And if we're no longer here, then our heirs won't be able to keep up with the investments. Right. So a strong portfolio can't stand if your income disappears or if life events happen. Right. I can't tell you how many people have come into our realm, have had an accident at work, slipped, and now they can't work for 6 months. Right. So not only your investments are going to suffer, but your day-to-day expenses are going to suffer. So as we stair-step this approach, it's so important that you all create a solid foundation of, we always talk about paying yourself first, right? Savings, ensuring your income, making sure you have that solid foundation. And then once that is established, then open up the world to investing. But it's only if you have your savings in place. We go back to talking about the world of like self-insurance. Do I have an emergency fund? Do I have at least $2,000 in a savings account? So if something happens, I can pay for it. I don't have to go into debt. Next level up as far as self-insuring is, do I have 3 to 6 months of my income available? These are all pieces of insurance that you've created for yourself so that, God forbid, if I'm not able to work, do I have cash on hand? Right? And only if you have those things in place and then you have some life insurance also, right, to maximize your income protection, only then we should start having the conversation of investing.
Right, because it's investing without protection is like building on sand, and we know what comes of that. So we don't want to put ourselves in that situation, because then we have even more that we have on our plate when doing that. When the best thing for us to do is to take step by step, one foot in front of the other, steps 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of times what we want is immediate gratification, and we want to jump to step number 5 when we haven't done steps 1 through 4 first. So yes, investing is super important, and we should do investing, but we should take the necessary steps ahead of investing to make sure that we're in a good financial space to maintain those investments, regardless of what life throws at us.
Yeah, let's not disregard what true financial freedom is. Right? True financial freedom isn't necessarily keeping up with the Joneses or whatever you see on Instagram. True financial freedom is about having cash in the bank. Having an extra $500,000, $10,000 in the bank that's not tied to any specific expenses. That's freedom, right? Yeah. We have the ability to come and go as we please. If an emergency comes up, we can pay for it. That's freedom, right? And we want you to be able to start an investment opportunity from the stance of freedom and confidence rather than fear and scarcity, thinking about what if. So the whole point of protection is what gives you peace of mind. Protection is what actually gives you the financial freedom, because we know many of people who are investing and they're doing great investing, but they don't have freedom because they're so stressed about their investments and how they can continue to keep them cash flowing.
Right.
So we want you all to create peace of mind. We want you all to build solid foundations and systems that actually will work without you, and not where you actually have to do the hard labor and live years of trial and error and testing in order to make it work.
Right. Financial freedom is when you're able to replace your passive income, your active income with passive income. Financial freedom is when you're able to replace your active income with your passive income. Now, we have to have active income first before we can create the passive. Now, the gap in between, what we're saying is protecting that active income, being you, because you're the one that's out there working. A lot of times people, again, we keep saying this because we've seen it and we keep experiencing it. That's why we wanted to do this video, is because let's not forget about the stuff in between.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not forget about the important parts, the simple stuff. Because when we think about insurance, let's talk about, let's say, term insurance as an example. On a 40-year-old male, term costs $1,000 for a 10-year term for $1 million
Annually, $1,000 a year.
Annually, it goes up to $2,000 if you're 50 years old, and then if you're 60 years old, it costs $6,000. You see the difference? And I'm just talking about a term policy, standard health on a 40, 50, and 60-year-old male. It goes up as you get older. So let's do the necessary things right now, because the cheapest insurance that ever be is the cost that now, so that we can focus all of our attention on our investing and generating that passive income, so it can replace our active income.
And what came to mind as you were saying that is, let's have the real conversation of protection is not sexy, which is why people don't focus on it. There is no sexy conversation around protection, right? You don't go to dinner parties and go, oh, well, Darius, I got all this in life insurance. No, we're trying to talk about how much money we're earning, what our investments are doing, because that's fast, that's sexy, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But when we think about the most successful corporations, businesses, the most wealthy families, they are first thinking about protection and then growth second.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not get distracted by the shiny objects. Let's not get distracted by the Joneses. Let's get laser focused on what it is that we're trying to do for our family, protect our specific ecosystem with all of the opportunities that you have in place. Life insurance is a great way. Annuity is a great way to guarantee your income. Disability insurance is a great way to ensure if you have an accident, your income keeps going. Long-term care is a great opportunity too, right? To ensure that your medical bills can be paid. God forbid something happened, because we know how much medical bills can be. So this whole conversation is just, again, preserving your ability to choose. Because I would hate for all of you to have to sell an asset, sell the home that you're living in, just to be able to pay for your medical expenses.
Right.
Or pay for anything else that come up.
Yeah, the thing is, most people are financially exposed. Like we mentioned earlier, many people insure their phones and their cars, but that leaves a massive financial blind spot when it comes to their income. So let's be aware. Let's be intentional. You're watching this video and you're getting this information for a reason.
Yeah, and we'll leave you with an equation for you to be able to determine, right? What we consider as your human life value. This is what we do as insurance agents, is be able to determine how much you can qualify from an insurance standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So your homework, family, is to literally take your income, and this is just a general equation. Let's just take your income and multiply it by 10. Let's just start there. The numbers might be different for your age, but let's just start there on a general standpoint. Take your income, multiply it by 10. Whatever that answer is, do you have that in life insurance?
And if you don't have it in life insurance, do you have it in your savings account?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, you're exposed,
Mm-hmm.
financially exposed.
Mm-hmm. And the younger you are, the more exposed you are. Or again, going back on your income. Right? So if you don't just have that basic, let's call it $100,000 times 10, right? That's $1 million. If you do not have $1 million in life insurance or in the bank, we have opportunity. You have opportunity. Go figure out how to protect your income first and foremost, because again, protecting your income is more important than investing.
Right.
Get your ducks in a row. Don't put the cart before the horse. Get that homework done, and then let's move to the next opportunity. Simple as that.
Right. Because it doesn't cost your income to protect your income. It doesn't cost $1 million to protect $1 million worth of income. If you make $100,000 a year, that's income for the next 10 years for your family.
Mm-hmm.
when you pass away.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, we want to make sure that everyone is aware that you need to protect your income before you invest. That's the most important thing. It's more important than investing, protecting your income. Reason being is because if something happens with your income, you don't have any money to invest.
or do anything.
Or do anything.
Let's just talk about the basic needs. Can you buy bread and eggs?
No.
Nobody can buy eggs these days anyway because they're so expensive. But you all get what we're talking about. If you are exposed, let us know in the comments. Let us know. If you do not have that equation, if you do not have 10 times your income, let us know in the comments. We can help you. We can support you. We need to expose the gaps and then do something about the gaps, right? Because many of you are husbands, wives, moms, dads, sisters, brothers, right? And if you are no longer here, that financial burden is going to be placed on somebody else. So how can we help ensure that that financial burden, the impact, is as little as possible?
Right. Because the worst thing that can happen to somebody is a loved one passed away, and now their finances is your responsibility, or vice versa.
Because we all know what that's like for those who didn't prepare.
Even if you have all your ducks in a row in investments, if you're not taking in consideration somebody in your family passing away and those responsibilities becoming yours, think about it.
Mm-hmm. Now, Wealth Nation, if you want to continue learning and growing about your education with life insurance, whole life insurance, term insurance, whatever it is, make sure that you click on our next video so that you can see all of the ins and outs and take your education of life insurance to the next level, because nobody is ever going to care about your money or your legacy more than you. So it's time to take ownership and remember to own your own lifestyle.
Or someone else will.